Hello world, this is Dragonair Jordan, and today I'll be starting a new series called VGC Blueprint, where I examine a Pokemon in the current metagame and tell you how to win with it in 5 easy steps. So, as this is a new series, I'd love if you could all share your thoughts on the video, this format and style of team building videos, and any success that you've had with the Pokemon, um, as well as what you'd like to see next. I'm looking forward to trying out all of the new Mega Evolutions and had a lot of fun in Regulation MA and the mobile release of Champions. To start us off, what does this Pokemon do? Staraptor in its base form is a normal and flying type Pokemon, and that changes into a flying fighting type Pokemon upon Mega Evolution. It has above average bulk, a great attack stat, a very solid 110 speed tier, and goes from the Intimidate ability, lowering the opponent's attack stats, to the contrary ability, inverting any stat drops and boosts to boosts, and then boosts to drops. Um, for its same type attack bonus moves, you'll likely see it running Brave Bird in close combat. Both are very strong 120 base power moves, with the added benefit that close combat synergizes with uh, your contrary ability and will increase your defense boosts upon being used instead of dropping them, as it normally would. Dual Wing Beat is another option that you might see being run on Staraptor. It can be used if you would like a more defensive Staraptor and need to break focus ashes on things like Sneasler and Whimsicott. However, you trade off a lot of damage doing this. For coverage moves, there are only a few things that fighting and flying coverage cannot hit for at least neutral, and that is Steel Ghost types like Aegislash and Golden Go, which you can try to hit with Blaze Kick if you want perfect coverage. Structure also does get priority and quick attack, and Facade, which does get statement type attack bonus before Mega. This would potentially help out in matchups where you're getting status, like Mega Scovillain, with its Spicy Spray ability getting the auto burn. But it won't be run on most sets, and you probably won't see any of these coverage moves often. For utility, Mega Staraptor gets Tailwind and Roost. Tailwind can support your partners by doubling their speed, and Roost is like a more selfish approach to keep it alive and chugging away against your opponents, regardless of what healing support they have available. Um, Final Gambit I put on here just for the goal of being able to one hit KO anything with a lower HP number. It is just the best of one tick that I would assume would be only run on regular Staraptor more than the Mega. Um, and Helping Hand is notable to buff any better situated partners. You have damage by 1.5 times for the turn. Okay, so the second question that we have is why does it win? So Mega Staraptor's strengths come in trading damage favorably with intimidating boosting moves, being able to attack and heal cycle after boosting its defenses with close combat, and having roost recovery as well as healing from its partners. It's able to keep tempo with Tailwind or Scary Face from its partners, um, chip opponents into range of spread attackers or priority partners. It's a flying type, so it has that ground immunity. Pairs very well with some Earthquake users like Garchomp and Excadrill. And it has a very unique typing, Bulk and Intimidate, that can be paired with Screens just to like further bulk out its presence. Um, as you maybe saw in the resistance section, it has many similar resistances to a Dragon type. So you can think about it like that, where it will wall um, a large amount of Pokemon in the format's coverage and go from there. Third question we have to answer is what helps it win. So, what partners will we be pairing with Staraptor? Um, what I've seen have some success on the latter in the early days of this format are stat dropping abilities and moves. So, Cotton Spore to drop the speed of your opponents. Charm or Feather Dance, they do the same thing to raise your attack by 2, and then also to lower the opponent's attack by 2 if you decide to target them. Fake Tears to boost your special defense by 2. It also pairs with some of the special attackers that you might want to use next to Mega Staraptor, so it's not completely useless other than clicking it into yourself. Scary Face would boost your speed by 2, drop opposing speeds by 2. Screech is a little bit inaccurate, but raises your defense by 2. Baby Doll Eyes is a priority move that doesn't require a prankster Pokemon to use and is able to raise your attack just by 1 stage. And Strength Sap, it's able to heal up the Pokemon that's using it while raising Staraptor's attack stat, and will heal based on the Pokemon's attack stat, so it will continue to heal more health as you Strength Sap multiple times in succession. Parting Shot is able to boost your attack more notably and special attack by 1, and then drop the opposing Pokemons. And many of these attacks, Fake Tears, Scary Face, and Parting Shot are available on prankster Pokemon like Grimmsnarl. You would want to pair this also with Fake Out and potentially Hospitality from Sinistra. This allows you to continue to go on the offense and potentially like set up with a Roost or a Tailwind, better position yourself and like keep healing once you have those defense boosts up and are taking reduced damage. And I've seen Staraptor paired a lot with Steel and Ground type partners to counter those very electric and ice types that it doesn't want to see, and Wall, Psychic, and Flying types like as a Steel type. As for our 4th question, what beats it, and what do we beat with it? So starting us off on its strengths, I've had a really good time into most Garchomp teams just because you're able to intimidate it on lead in its base form. And then once upon Mega Evolution, you lose the rock weakness on Staraptor, so it's only hitting you for neutral with Dragon Claw. You're able to close combat, boost up in front of it, get off some roosts, and usually force it to switch after Intimidate because it's not able to pressure you hard enough. Mega Tyranitar, sorry, you're able to get a 1-hit KO, usually with close combat off of Staraptor. King Gambit, even the Chople Berry King Gambits, because you are a stab fighting type, as if you're running an Adamant Nature above a certain threshold, you're able to 1-hit KO it through the Chople Berry, which is super nice. If after a Charm will do the same thing because it will just negate the halving effect of Chople Berry. Sneasler and Incineroar are mons that would like to Fake Out Cycle you and prolong the game by dropping your stats or forcing you to make passive plays. But the more passive your team operates, it's of benefit to Staraptor because you get more turns to heal yourself, more turns to close combat, and are not really pinned by anything other than a Floette that would be next to these two. You also beat Mega Venusaur pretty hard. I have not seen Mega Venusaur be run on ladder since MB has started, and I expect that to continue to be the case, just because we have a very strong stab flying type now that beats it pretty hard, and same goes with Mega Kangaskhan. You're able to set up in front of it, and even if you don't get the 1-hit KO, just boost up your defenses to do well into its Trick Room partners in the back. So for covering 4, we have Whimsicott. Its Encore may be potentially problematic in forcing you to click a fighting move into its Ghost type partners or a flying move and not being able to get those defensive boosts. I've had some trouble into Corviknight and into Metagross, both because they hit you for super effective and are bulky steel types with super high defensive stats, so it will take like multiple turns to KO them. Mega Scovillain, just because it can burn you, and Staraptor does not want to be status, especially when you're putting in a lot of effort to get it going. Mega Charizard Y is just a very consistent fire type attacker and does like super strong spread moves and can often outpace you. Staraptor's often paired with Sinistra, so not being able to switch in and heal without losing your Sinistra is pretty rough. Farigarath is not a full counter to Mega Staraptor because you get to boost in front of it, but the trick and tunes that it's paired with, along with the pressure it puts on you with Psychic, can be super hard to deal with. So just making sure that you reverse that trick room as soon as possible and heal yourself up as much as you can. And then the multiple ghost types on a team would be hard for a Staraptor to deal with because you don't get to boost your defenses as much and are just going for full-on offense with Brave Bird against most of these Pokemon, which chips away at your health faster than most game plans that you'll go for. Okay, the last thing is what would beat you. And so fast electric types are pretty hard for a Mega Staraptor to beat. Golden Go, with its Ghost Steel typing, is fully resistant to immune to fighting type attacks and resistant to flying type attacks coming out from you. Aegislash also doubles to do this. However, if it uses King Shield, you do get an attack boost, which is nice. Frostlass is one of the strongest counters to Mega Staraptor, I think, just because it can't be fake out, be fake outed, because it's Ghost type typically, and then has super strong blizzards and can set Veil for itself, just to kind of outpace and outdamage Staraptor in the long term. The Hail defense boost or Snow defense boost is pretty hard to break through as well. Mega Floette is a winnable matchup. However, it is able to get some speed control and click fairy moves faster than you. You do take too much damage to continue to heal cycle as you normally would. And Mega Delphox has been like a super rough matchup I've seen for Staraptor on different teams, just because it outspeeds and is able to go for very strong fire and psychic type moves that hits the majority of your team for super effective or neutral, and can nasty blood up to boost faster than you would boost with your close combats. Okay, and the fifth and final question is, how do we build it, or how should we play with this Pokemon? And so I created a sample team. This is day one of the format, so I think that it will age well, and I'll share some of my insight into why I chose what I did. This team is more offensive than I think a lot of Staraptor teams will be, because Grimmsnarl does seem to be like the perfect partner with it, with Scary Face and Parting Shot, as well as Fake Tears. However, I wanted to ladder up as quickly as possible, and so I chose a more offensive Staraptor build with this team with some tools to match. And so we have Excadrill, which is able to handle Mega Floette really well. The Stab Ironhead is always going to pick up the Oko unless you get intimidated, and because we have Contrary Staraptor here, Intimidate is super not a problem if you're bringing that. You get to boost off of it, and Staraptor beats a lot of the partners that Floette is paired with, like the Sneasler and the Incident and the Sinistcha. So Staraptor does well into that, and Excadrill can pressure Floette to make passive turns. Tyranitar is here for the Charizard matchup. You're able to control the weather against Charizard and Rain teams, just to ensure that Staraptor has a better time and their damage is a little bit more manageable. Low Kick is able to get rid of Kingambit. You do have to respect Kingambit with this team, despite having multiple resists and Staraptor being a fighting type, just because we're boosting it with Intimidate. So having redirection out to be able to redirect Sucker Punches and then get that close combat off before it can do anything, and as well as Low Kick, is super helpful. Basket Legion here is a Scarf Last Respect set. I found that there were some positions where I wanted to get huge damage off with Staraptor and would allow it to get KO'd with Brave Bird, like super late in the game. It would usually pick up 1 or 2 KOs and then go down. And having Basculegion, Scarf Basculegion specifically with it to clean up those end games once it did go down is very helpful. And it pairs super well with Raichu as well. And then Sinistra is there for redirection, like I said, for the Sucker Punches and priority moves that would go into Staraptor, as well as Hospitality Healing paired with the Flip Turn and Volt Switch. And then Raichu is here for opposing Raichu, Mega Raichu, to have Lightning Rod, and has the Charm Tech to be able to self-charm into Staraptor for a +2 attack boost. Fake Out plus Encore is very helpful to be able to lock opponents into Protect if they make passive plays, lock screen users into screens, lock opposing Staraptors into fighting type moves or flying type moves, and just let you deal with them a lot more easily with the rest of your team. So I also had noted here, I'm not jolly on Basculegion. I chose to run Adamant just for the damage, and so you can take a look here at the speed tier that it would reach. It's going to hit base 126 Pokemon, like Talonflame, with the 195 speed, and so expect to move after Talonflame because of its Gale Wings ability, increasing the priority of its flying type moves, but slower than anything else above this red line. And then the second thing I wanted to note is, and you'll see it in the test matches, is that Staraptor is often able to get off multiple Intimidates, and Sinistra is able to get off multiple Hospitality Healings with their abilities that activate on switching because of the switching moves that are available on this team. And so you can use those to your advantage by leading Staraptor and going for an Intimidate, and then going for a Volt Switch or a Flip Turn, and getting back in your Intimidate to reduce a physical attacker's attack by 2 stages, which you could also do with Charm on Raichu, but being able to do it while getting some damage off with one of those 2 moves has been very helpful for tempo. And then the second thing I wanted to note was that Fake Out Encore combo, being able to lock in opposing Staraptor into fighting or flying type moves, screens users into a screen. Once they set up one screen, it's not really helpful to keep clicking it, so you can usually force a switch and get some more turns off there. Passive or setup Pokemon like Whimsicott, like you can lock them into a Tailwind. And yeah, other than that, we're gonna head to some games, and I've here featured for you a best of 3 against my friend Xelsior, as well as some ladder games from day 1 of the format. So I'm looking forward to showcasing that.